Hello. For those of you who may not know me, my name's Chris Bournet. I'm a writer and filmmaker based in Columbus, Ohio, which is the birthplace of women's wrestling. And I wrote and directed the documentary Lady Wrestler, The Amazing Untold Story of African American Women in the Ring. The documentary chronicles the accomplishments of trailblazing African American women who integrated pro wrestling in the 1950s. As I record this video, it's early December 2021, and I just wanted to look back on some of the milestones that happened this year regarding this story that is finally coming to light, and the fact that these trailblazing women are finally starting to get some of the recognition that they're due. Now, one of the milestones that happened in 2021 is that Lady Wrestler became available for streaming on Amazon Prime Video. So if you live in the United States, and I believe the United Kingdom, you can access Lady Wrestler on Amazon Prime. And if you live outside of those territories, you can go to a site called gumroad.com and rent the documentary there. And if you have any questions about how to access Lady Wrestler and how to watch it, go to ladywrestlermovie.com. To coincide with the release of the Lady Wrestler documentary, I also released a podcast called Lady Wrestler, The Story Behind the Story, that kind of gives you some behind the scenes anecdotes about the making of Lady Wrestler and some little known facts about these women. The documentary kicked off with an interview with myself and Valerie Hawes, daughter of African American wrestling legend Lula Mae Provo. And Valerie gave some insight into why this story of these amazing women who integrated pro wrestling, why their story has been so underground all these years. So here's an excerpt from my interview with Valerie. So I first wanted to ask you, so growing up, how much did you know about your mother, about her wrestling career? Is it something she talked about? Is it something you were aware of, or?
I was obviously aware that she did it, right? And talked to me about it a little. But she would get so angry if myself or my dad or any of our relatives was shared with other people.
Okay.
Even in this, even in like the 80s, she didn't want to talk about it, even though she hadn't done it in 20 years, prior to that. But in the 80s, she still didn't want people to know. Like, I don't know if there was just some shame around it. My guess is that the industry was shameful to her. Just like, I guess for some entertainment in general during certain time periods, that wasn't considered a legitimate job or a respectable profession. So she didn't like me telling a lot of people about it.
Okay.
As I got a little older, though, maybe in the 90s, she would share a little bit more, but she wanted to be the one to share. She would pick and choose who she'd talk about it to. But she talked to me about some of her experiences, yeah. Also in 2021, for the Lady Wrestler podcast, I had the honor of interviewing contemporary wrestlers Amber Rodriguez, Ronnie Nicole, and Trisha Dora. And here are some excerpts from those interviews. What can be done to, so there's a consistent support for women's wrestling?
Just like not allowing it to be set back. Like, we have to put our foot down, you know what I mean? And not take on roles that don't make us look good. Like if a promoter pitches an idea to you that sounds like something that probably would have worked in 98, but these days it's just like we've come so far from that, then don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, it comes with us standing firm.
So did you have a mentor or a trainer who kind of, helped you get into the business, or did you just kind of, develop your own training regimen, or how did that come about?
Well, so one day I was like, all right, I did enough research at this point, about a year and a half of research. And I was like, all right, I kind of figured out that I think I'm going to just end up in Florida. So I moved down to Orlando, and I quickly realized, because it was kind of like my first time, like being like alone in that sense. So it was the little money I had saved up went so quickly, you wouldn't believe. And so it took me a while to kind of join a school once I got down to Orlando. So that was kind of the first initial grind. But once I got connected with the Team 3D Academy, with Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley, they kind of just developed a training regimen around that. So I was very, very happy with that. And over time, I had other trainers too, as I left the nest and moved back to DC after about 3 or 4 years of training. So
I know you don't want to give it. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I know you don't want to give away the secret sauce, so to speak, but what is a training regimen like for you? Do you train like, when you have a big match coming up, is it more intense rather than just your daily kind of regimen, or can you kind of give a little bit of insight into that?
Yeah, so I try to always operate at like a third gear, you know what I mean? So just you're always at a pace. So that way when you need to pick things up, like my May and my June got really packed really quickly. I took a few like last minute bookings, so things kind of got crunched up. But thankfully I was already working at like a third pace. So I was just kicking it up a little bit and didn't have to, struggle along too much. I like to train in the ring at least twice a week and go to the gym about the same at least twice a week. Usually no more than 4 or 5 times. I try not to really grind that into the ground a little bit, especially if I have shows that weekend.
But you can't be what already was. So along the way, I had to figure out who I was as an entertainer, as an athlete, and what I personally wanted to represent to people coming up behind me.
Now, also on the podcast, I got to interview a lot of great wrestling aficionados and experts. So if you want to catch all the episodes that I've released to date of the Lady Wrestler podcast, go to Apple Podcast or Stitcher or some of the other platforms that you can listen to podcasts on. And I'll put the link to the Lady Wrestler podcast homepage that tells how you can access those episodes. And you can also just scroll through my YouTube channel, because I also posted videos of those podcasts on YouTube. One of the biggest milestones that happened in 2021 related to the history of these trailblazing women who shattered glass ceilings in the wrestling industry is that Ethel Johnson was inducted into the 2021 WWE Hall of Fame. Now, as much as that's an honor, Ethel's sisters, her older sister Babs Wingo and her younger sister Marva Scott, were not recognized, unfortunately. And the way in which Ethel was inducted, there's some controversy around it. So if you want the details about that controversy, I posted an interview with the family that's available on my YouTube channel, and the audio version is available on the Lady Wrestler Story Behind the Story podcast. And you can also just Google it. So I just want to say rest in peace to the dear, wonderful Ethel Johnson. And I also wanted to honor the memory of Ethel Brown, another wrestler who I had the honor and the privilege of interviewing while making Lady Wrestler. Ethel Brown, who was also known by her married name, Ethel Aschenbrenner, was just a lovely, lovely woman. She was ahead of her time in that she befriended the African-American lady wrestlers. Ethel Brown was Caucasian, and she was just a lovely woman to speak to. I got the opportunity to go down to her house in the Atlanta area, and she just welcomed me with open arms.
Billy really wanted to cultivate all of his women so that they weren't called woman wrestlers, but they were called lady wrestlers. And I can remember that on some of my pictures it said lady wrestler.
So she passed away at the age of 90 in 2021. So much love and many blessings to Ethel Brown's family, and much honor to her memory as well. So what's coming ahead in 2022 for the story of these history-making women? Well, I will be making the documentary available on DVD. That's something that several people have contacted me about and asked about, and I apologize for the delay, but what the issue is that DVDs and physical hard copies of whether it be movies or music, that's really a dying, form. Most people consume movies and music on streaming platforms like Amazon or, Apple TV or Apple Music or Amazon Music. So making physical copies of movies or music is kind of a complicated and expensive proposition because there are fewer and fewer companies who do this kind of work. But I will be making the documentary available in hopefully early 2022, and I'll be announcing details about that. And also, I'll be updating the Lady Wrestler website with details about how you can host community and educational screenings of the documentary. So, for all of you who have supported Lady Wrestler and the story of these women, I just want to thank you. Now, making these informational videos and podcast episodes about the documentary and about the women themselves, it's a true labor of love. But, you know, like any labor of love, I make mistakes. So I thought it might be kind of fun to show some of the bloopers that have happened while recording these videos and recording podcast episodes. So I'll leave you with that. And for those of you who follow my YouTube channel, I'm going to continue to post content throughout the year. Some people just kind of close up shop during the holidays, but I'm a consumer of pop culture in addition to being a writer and a filmmaker, and I don't stop consuming content during the holidays. So I will be posting content, book reviews about books I read in 2021, movie reviews of movies I watched in 2021. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching and have a great holiday season. Hello. Oh, shit. I made myself a playlist that I call a soundtrack to keep myself motivated and be sure to get the complete story by streaming the Lady Wrestler document. She's done something that is typically associated only with men. So I had to. Lady Wrestler chronicles how trailblazing African women. One little postscript. A postscript I wanted to add is that during the pandemic, like many of us, I was working from home, and a lot of times I would just kind of roll out of bed and not bother much with my appearance, to be quite honest, because I wasn't really going anywhere. I was maybe going to the grocery store and then back home, and that was it. So I have to admit, sometimes I look back at these videos and I'm like, Lord have mercy, Jesus, why didn't I do something with my hair? Sometimes my hair looks okay. Other times it's like standing over my head, all over my head with little peaks and valleys. So thank you for sticking with me with my inconsistent appearance in these videos, because God knows I'm still learning how to present myself on camera. I was actually a teen model, believe it or not. So you'd think I would have mastered how to appear on camera. But thank you for sticking with me, whether I looked presentable or not. Thank you for listening. Catch you next time.